forgiving yourself and forgiveness of others, and the ego-based mind, and how when we learn how to forgive the ego in us, which I'm going to explain today, it clears the way to success in your life. And I'm going to talk about how to do mindfulness meditation, touch on that a little bit, and a great principle from the Course in Miracles. But forgiving yourself, how they say you should practice forgiveness of others and forgive yourself. But hardly anyone is really aware of the real meaning of forgiveness. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thanks for joining me on another episode of For a Better Life podcast. And today is Sunday, June 24th, 2018, and it's another balmy, pollen-infested air here in Northeast Ohio. And for those of you that know me, know I've discussed before, I'm allergy prone, but so bear with me today. And, I'm operating today on this podcast from downtown Massillon, Ohio. There's a little park called Veterans Park. And I'm here, and if you hear some church bells in the background again, that's because there's one old stone church a few blocks away. It just has wonderful chimes every now and then it goes off. So anyways, hey, some members of my mastermind group, which I'll explain later to you what that is, had written in, and they're from East Germany, from Potsdam, East Germany, Henry and Melissa. Now, I just think that is so wonderful that I'm communicating with someone from East Germany. Now, I'm going to be 61 years old soon, so my days of coming up was East Germany was part of the Soviet Union. It was behind the Berlin Wall, the Iron Curtain, and was just, you didn't communicate with people behind the Iron Curtain. And for those of you that are much younger, that were born, say, after Ronald Reagan era, our President Reagan, don't really recall that or experience that. But going through school and everything, we always wondered about them kids growing up in behind the Iron Curtain, what life was like. And now they're free, and here I am as an adult, 61 years old, an author, a speaker, a podcaster, and on, and now I'm communicating with people in East Germany. I just think that is just so healing. It just shows proof of how the world is healing, and how forgiveness of others, when we understand the real meaning of forgiveness, how the world starts to heal as a whole. And that's what A Course in Miracles, really, the gist of A Course in Miracles is about forgiveness, and about when we learn the real meaning of forgiveness, I mean the real and true meaning of forgiveness, we come to awaken from the dream of life and touch true reality, our real home, and things start to happen like the Iron Curtain coming down, which did, and opening communication. Those people are free now, and that is just wonderful. So enough of that, but you know what they say, that you should practice forgiveness of others. So we're going to discuss that today. And by the way, as you're listening to me, if you're at YouTube listening to me, in the description area down below is an access link called Bring My Dreams to Reality. I urge you to get that. It's a wonderful video. It's a free video, and a free ebook comes with it. And it tells about a man's story through forgiveness, the real meaning of forgiveness, how he was able to really turn his life around. And it's just a wonderful, I hope that you'll check that out. Now, if you're at my website listening to this podcast, there is an image down below on forgiveness below this video. I've got it embedded, this YouTube thing, at the site that you may be at. You'll see in the article, free ebook here under an image that's in the article. So it's there for you. But what if I told you that I spend more time on mindfulness meditation than anything else? And, for the reasons of forgiving myself first, then I can more easily forgive the world. Well, let me go on and say that practicing real forgiveness can change your life for the better and help you manifest the life that you really want. And I've also written another article on that I hope that you will look up at my website. It's at jamesnussbaumer.com/manifesting desires. And that's a pretty lengthy article, about maybe 2,500 words, but I've written it very easy to understand. It's a nice article that people have really patted me on the back for, and I've gotten a lot of nice messages on that. So for those of you that have messaged me and are listening to me, I thank you so much for following me. And it's so important to me because those of you that know my story know where all my writing had taken place for 8 years while I was in a state prison over that foolish securities violation. And I say foolish just for the record, foolish on my part for getting caught up, how I just got caught up in. But, I got caught up. I allowed myself to get caught up. But it's also foolish on the justice system because it was overtly political and I was way over sentenced. But that's not the reason for that's not the subject, but I brought that up because that's where forgiveness, for me, understanding the real meaning of forgiveness allowed me to drastically turn my life around and bounce and get back off the ground after that hard fall from being in prison for 8 years. If it wasn't for me practicing the real meaning of forgiveness, I would have been in a state of depression the rest of my life. So I was able to bounce back up and start over again at a later stage in my life. So enough of that. Let's get moving here and talk more about to answer Henry and Melissa's questions from Potsdam, East Germany. Again, I think that's so wonderful. But if forgiving yourself first allows you to forgive others, that means to look beyond delusion. Okay, what do I mean? Well, the power of the mind, you might be the one who pays most dearly if you don't practice forgiveness. And here's what I mean, because by embracing forgiveness, the real meaning of forgiveness. Now, remember, let me back up that I said looking beyond illusion, okay? So by embracing forgiveness, you can also embrace the light of peace, bliss within yourself, appreciation. When I say appreciation, I mean growth of the idea of healing and wholeness, kind of like, East Germany, now a free people on the internet communicating with me in America. So, oh my gosh, isn't that, appreciation, growth of the idea of healing and wholeness? So, in my first book, excuse me as I took a sip of Maxwell House coffee. In my first book called The Master of Everything, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life, handwritten, by the way, from prison. And it was on stores, bookshelves, and on Amazon and everywhere before I walked out of prison. I luckily found Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, if you're listening, I love you. A nice family publisher, mainstream publisher, by the way. And they saw it their way to become a part of my writing. And of course, I had many, like I say before, publishers turned me down. I had enough rejection letters to wallpaper the entire prison in the walls of the entire prison. I had enough rejection letters to do, but Ozark Mountain came through. But anyways, in my first book, The Master of Everything, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life, I discussed that in forgiving yourself and forgiveness of others, I mean hope that for the most part, we can overlook ego-based behavior and thinking by looking beyond ego behavior to the light of who we are. Now, what is ego behavior? The ego is the negative aspect in all of us, and it's illusion. It's not who we really are. Ego is a cloud cover in our mind, blocking the light of our true home, heaven, while we're in this world. So when we operate from the cloud, it's filled with negativity. Wrong-mindedness, A Course in Miracles calls that. And I say for the most part, the ego is negative, okay? Now, there's a part of our ego-based mind that's not negative, that is positive, and that's called right-mindedness, but that's still of the ego. But I say for the most part that the ego is negative because while in this world, the illusion of the ego or body will still be a part of who and what we think we are. The ego is that doubting and fearful aspect in us. A lot of times I'll refer it to the doubting Thomas aspect in us. that aspect in us that wants to judge and condemn and blame others, that kind of thing. That's the ego. We all have it. The best of us as humans, the best of us in this world, all humans have it. But when we can learn to look beyond that ego-based behavior and act from there, that is the meaning of true forgiveness. So look at true forgiveness. Henry and Melissa, who wrote in and wanted me, of East Germany, wanted to know the real meaning of forgiveness. Look at forgiveness this way, is that when you're forgiving yourself first, you're looking beyond your ego behavior to the light of spirit that you really are. So you're looking beyond the ego-based behavior, you're overlooking it to the spirit that you really are and saying, you know what, that really isn't me. I am the light of spirit. There you go, is true forgiveness. So when you can do that with yourself first, then you can do the same thing with other people that may have said bad things about you or have hurt your feelings or whatever. Or for a judge, like in my case, who over-sentenced me and it was overtly political. And I was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and it was such a foolish matter. Of course, I was guilty. I mean, I got caught up, but it could have been worked out a little bit more decently than sending me away to prison for 10 years. Although I served 8 of the 10 years, and a forgiving judge came through from a higher court, and after 8 years saw my accomplishments and looked at the case more closely and seen that it was overtly political and decided to release me. But it took 8 years to open the eyes of a higher court to see. But anyways, forgiveness came through. So when I now in my life as a free man, I now can understand the real meaning of forgiveness to better my own life and launch my writing career and my speaking career as it is going now. So consider how the real meaning of forgiveness now can lead you down the path of physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being. Now, let me give you this spiritual, metaphysical principle from the Course in Miracles. Now, first of all, I've broken it down. I'm not going to state it exactly what it says, but the Course in Miracles in this principle shows us that forgiving yourself will take away what stands between your brother and yourself. Now, I mean your brother, not your sibling. Of course, that can mean too, but your sibling is I have a brother, my sibling. He's a body figure, okay? But I mean your brother. So we could, because in this world, we know of masculine and female overtones, brother, sister. Brother, a masculine overtone, sister, a female overtone. So, we that's the way we communicate with each other through our human tongue. Excuse me, I just had to clear my throat a little bit. Like I said, the pollen in the air. And I do apologize again. But your brother, when I say to you and you're listening to me, you as my brother, you as my sister, I'm meaning us connected as one within the mind of reality, beyond the ego. So you, my brother / sister that are listening to me, that is who, deeper beyond the body, you and I are connected. Deeper beyond any ego can go. We are connected as one, the light of spirit. When we can overlook that ego body, the physical body, and go beyond to who someone really is, who's connected with us, there you go. Forgiveness of others. So, when we wish to, when we call this, well, let me back up and say, it is the wish, though, that you be joined with him and not apart. Him, your brother / sister, him / her, as you both see the effects of oneness. Now, we call this a wish because you're still concerned with the many, many choices, and really, we have not yet reached beyond the world of choice entirely yet as humans, because we can't. We're humans. But that is okay right now. You see, the very fact that you recognize this without thinking it. Now, you can't dwell on it and dissect it too much, because if you do, the ego sneaks in the back door on you and wants to tell you what a crazy idea this is. So you got to let it flow across your mind. The very fact that you recognize this means that you are gradually moving beyond the need to make choices based on the idea of separation. By forgiving yourself, I will explain separation in a minute, and forgiveness of others which is to overlook the ego-based thought system by looking beyond it. Separation means the ego is based on this idea of separation. In other words, it's based on the idea that we're all separate, that you are separate from me. Sure, we're separate from each other in bodily form, in the material world, and that's the only thing the ego can see, because the ego is not real. It's only in this world. But when we see that we're connected in spirit, the light of God, we can say. I use God because it's easy and I was raised that way. Use any term you want for the oneness of all that is. When we can see that beyond the body, we're all connected to that oneness. So, but the ego cannot. Now, if you're having a hard time grasping this, what I'm saying to you, then that means you're really having a hard time with understanding the real meaning of forgiveness. And it also means because of that, you're putting too much emphasis. If you're having a hard time understanding what I'm saying, if you're scratching your head a little bit and trying to think too hard on this, you're putting too much emphasis on yourself as a body, on who you truly are. You're putting too much emphasis on who you truly are as a human body. Another sip of coffee. Okay. But that's okay if you are having a hard time at that, because it means you're wanting to overlook and go beyond, and that means you are growing spiritually. Your wish is in line with the state of heaven in God's will, which is your own life of purpose, your own true free will. It's your purpose while you're here on life to be aligned with your real home, heaven. So relax and know that by forgiving yourself, in other words, by forgiving yourself, to overlook your ego behavior, overlook your fear and doubting aspect of yourself, and go beyond it to the inner beauty that you are within, that knows everything about who you truly are. When you can do that, you are moving along the path exactly the way you were intended. And this is precisely why I urge you to seek out mindfulness meditation exercises. There's a wonderful, wonderful mindfulness meditation exercise that I use called the 7-minute manifestation, 7-minute mindfulness manifestation. And that's also, if you're at my website, you'll find that in the right-hand sidebar, where I have different things for people to investigate. But if you're not involved with meditation and you think that prayer is the only way, I urge you to check out meditation, because prayer is good as well, equally as meditation. But you need to use both, because prayer is more for the asking. Meditation is more of the listening for the answers. Meditation gets you to that alpha state. That alpha state is the beginning part of your creativity, which sits within. When you pray, you're asking for something. When you meditate, you're just waiting and opening up your mind to receive the answers. Like when you pray, what should I do next? When you meditate, you open your mind and you're saying, I get it. Thank you. You've sent me the message I needed. Now I know what to do next. When you come out of a wonderful meditation session, maybe of 10 minutes, you will think, wow, I just received my answer. So that said, whether you realize it or not, by accepting the truth of who you are allowing illusion to slowly fade away. And this is forgiving yourself. And that's what meditation does. You're using prayer for the asking, and you're using meditation to receive the answer. And that is where the illusions of your life slowly fade away. So the ego doesn't like this. The ego, the doubting Thomas aspect in us, is afraid of this, doesn't like this, but you can deal with that now that you know the real meaning of forgiveness. When that doubting thing comes up in your mind about this meditation you're diving into, or whatever it might be. I just use meditation. Now you know to forgive that notion, which means to just overlook it by going beyond it. I can remember one star-struck night as a little boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, something like that. And it was when my grandfather and I stood in the side yard of his 2-year-old story home, my grandpa Nussbaumer, and we both were analyzing the Big Dipper. He had this old 2-story home. It's still there, but other people are living there now. And it was a nice little neighborhood and a big side yard. And as I grew older, I would mow that lawn too. But anyways, so it was one summer night, and it was dark, and for some reason I was staying overnight at their home, and we stood in the side yard looking up at this, analyzing this star-struck night. And I can remember I asked him, do you think someday I'll be able to reach up and touch one of those stars? You know, he was pointing out the Big Dipper to me and how to find the Big Dipper in the sky, and all that, and the Little Dipper and the Big Dipper. And he was showing me the North Star and all these things. And I said, do you think one day I'll be able to reach up and grab that North Star? My grandfather said to me, he said, you don't have to wait till you're bigger to do that. You are already touching that North Star. And, with a quizzical wonder and smile in my head, I looked upward again into the sky, and I responded to my grandpa. I said, there's no way, Grandpa. How can I ever stick my hand up that far and reach and touch that star? Well, he tapped his index finger kind of abruptly onto my chest, right around my heart. And he says, Jimmy, he said, those stars are in your heart. That's why you're able to see them. See, that's reflection. So for no other reason than control, the ego-based mind, that doubting and fearful aspect in us, which is our false sense of self, perceives salvation as something waiting for us down the road. We see it as some future event to prepare for, when it's not. It's here for us now if we want it. So could it be that the ego, that fearful and doubting aspect in you, wants eminent domain over our time while we're in this world? Yes, that's the ego's plan. It wants your time in order for it to exist. And this is why time concerns us, because when we live with the vast percentage of our mind leaning towards the ego, we worry about, things like death. And because, see, the ego knows that when death enters, our time in this world is over. And that's all the ego has, is time in this world. There is no afterworld to the ego. Of course, the ego tries to make an afterworld, and that's why it dreamed up this thing of heaven and hell. Sure, there's a heaven, but that's only heaven, and that's in another podcast. But the continuous search for salvation seems to be on a path that the ego directs, where it says, one day we will have our home with salvation waiting. Well, along the journey, also, the ego tells us that we must do some of this and much of that, usually on our knees, begging and praying and repenting in order that we may be saved. Well, this is a price that we must pay, the ego tells us. What is wrong with the world's outlook today? You see, such questions are bound to arise in thinking minds when we ask a simple question: what really are we being saved from? And I ask that to you, Henry and Melissa from Potsdam, East Germany, listening to me. What is it that you really want to be saved from? Such questions are bound to arise in thinking minds when we ask a simple question again, and then we know the answer, when we can say, what really are we looking to be saved from? But then we can say, hey, all I want to be saved from is illusion. I want to operate mostly while I'm in this world from my spirit, not from the ego. Yes, I realize I'm going to have ego involved, but I want spirit to be in charge. And when we can live our life that way, we have less fear and less doubt in our life, and therefore we proceed on to manifest our dreams. Does that make sense? I hope so. But again, your ego won't let you do that 100% because it thinks it's in control of you. So you have to trick the ego a little bit and, give it a little, loosen the chain a little bit on the ego. I mean, give it a little more length, but keep it in a tight stretch, to where, like the Course in Miracles talks about the snarling dogs of the ego-based mind. Consider that ego in you a snarling dog, and keep it to a kind of a little bit of a tight chain, to where spirit has no chain, but you're keeping your ego kind of tamed, so to speak. The crux of the matter lies really in the need in the need today, to dig religion from its ancient and narrow dark vault, and let spirit of present day humankind shout out in honest glory. Think about what I just said. The crux of the matter today lies in the need to dig religion from its ancient and narrow dark vault. I'm not saying get rid of religion. No way. Because religion is very helpful in this world. But I'm just saying, let's dig it out of the dark vault that we keep it buried in, and let the spirit of present day humankind shine out in honest glory. Honest glory. On that topic, there's another related article, jamesnussbaumer.com/idea of salvation. Hope you'll check that out. Hey, I've got to start closing now because I went a little bit overboard, but I hope you'll support my work. I put a lot of effort into what I do. I appreciate you listening to me. I refer other people's ideas and products because I believe in them. At my website, you'll see, and I believe in them, and I support their work because they support my work. Somewhere there's an author out there giving a podcast right now, and he's plugging me, so to speak, because he believes in my books. And that's how the world works. That's how we work at being at one with one another and whole. So I hope that you will support my work, because yes, if you read every word of my 3 books so far that are out, with more to come, by the way, I guarantee you that. They're already written. We're just going through the editing stage. But anyways, even if you read every word of all my books, it may be great for you, but you still might be needing more content, more. And that's why I refer other authors' creative work to you. And like I said, because they're referring my work to their followers. You can find more about my newsletter at my website. If you're at YouTube right now, in the description area, there's an area where you can find out more, to learn more about A Course in Miracles, which is a newsletter that I write. It's free. I do have a mastermind group that is subscription only, but you may not be ready for that. That's fine, and that's why I have the free version. My mastermind group is a small group of closely knit individuals where we meet live on a regular basis through webinar, and we hash it out on how to live a better life, for a better life, and all those things that, forgiveness and everything, and manifesting desires. Well, please follow me on Twitter as well. For some reason, Twitter is just exploding for me. I'm getting a lot of followers on Twitter, and Facebook as well. Follow me on Facebook, James Nussbaumer at Facebook. I have a regular page and I have an author page. I hope that you'll like my author page and follow me on my personal page as well. And, with all that said, I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and all the natural beauty that you have inside of you, and that you need to start creating the life you want from within yourself while you forgive illusion. Overlook it by looking beyond it to what you really want in life. Reflect that inner beauty, that inner awesomeness, that creativity that you're making within yourself, that creation that you're putting together within yourself, your ideas, what you want to do in life, and start reflecting that to your material world. And you'll make your life situation just wonderful. I've got to run now. Like I said, I went a little bit overboard, like I seem to always do. I wish the best for you in life and love and all the success the world has to offer. Please keep following me. Please comment me as to what you think. I wish the best for you. James Nussbaumer signing off. God bless.